I don't care about your mother. I'm in the middle of something, so don't interrupt me. She's got 6 months to live anyway. You knew she was going to be gone soon, so don't call me up every time. You can take care of your own mother yourself.
One day, I received a phone call informing me that my mother was in critical condition. When I rushed to call my husband, he spat out cold words at me, as if he had no regard for human life. I sat there in a daze with the phone in my hand, thinking about my mother. I wanted to show her how happy I was with my marriage. I believed it would be the greatest repayment I could give her. But now, I might not be able to fulfill my promise. I wiped away the tears that were welling up in my eyes and ran to the hospital. I'm sure my husband is still so absorbed in his hobbies that he has forgotten about our phone call, unaware of the unexpected tragedy that awaited him after that. My name is Sophia. I'm a 27-year-old housewife living with my husband Emery, who is 2 years older than me. I met him when I had just graduated and joined an IT company.
I'm Emery, and I will be training you starting today. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Emery became my immediate senior. He was fast at his work and was admired as an elite within the company. He also had many hobbies, such as karaoke, bowling, darts, and baseball, and always seems to enjoy talking about his private life. Emery was the kind of person I admired and adored. When I was 26 and he was 28, we started dating. And after 3 months of dating, we decided to get married. There is a big reason why we got married in such a short period of time. It is because my mother was sick in the hospital. My mother was unmarried when she gave birth to me, and she raised me all by herself. However, she had a chronic illness that often caused her to have breathing problems and nausea. I did my best to support her during those times, and we lived together so I could help her out. Then one day, my mother's chronic illness rapidly worsened, and she was finally told that she had only 6 months to live. She was so shocked that she could not stop crying. But when I told her about our marriage, she said, "Sophia, congratulations! Please live happily for me." She congratulated me with a big smile on her face. As the last act of filial piety I could perform as a daughter, I vowed to raise a happy family with my husband. When I got married, I quit my job and became a full-time housewife. I struggled with housework I was not accustomed to, but I was doing my best for my husband, who was working hard. Then one day, my husband came home from work and said to me,
I've got a new hobby.
"What's this new hobby of yours?"
Fishing. A friend of mine invited me to try it, and I'm totally hooked.
Husband is overjoyed to have found a new hobby, fishing. However, his addiction to fishing was clearly unusual compared to his other hobbies. Whenever my husband had a day off from work, he would go to the beach with his friends. At first, I was happy that he seems to be enjoying himself. But the more times he went, the more expensive the fishing rods and lures he bought out. My husband even said,
I've chartered a fishing boat.
I was taken aback when he said this. "You've been spending too much money on fishing lately, haven't you? That's why you don't give me much money for living. It's fine to have fun, but for the sake of the family budget, why don't you moderate your spending?" I was worried that our finances were getting tighter and asked my husband to be mindful of it. But my husband, with a nonchalant look on his face, says to me,
It's my hard-earned money. What's wrong with spending it on what I want to do? Why don't you just make it work for you?
I can't hide my surprise at the fact that he leaves everything about our life to me. Then, my husband tells me a fact I never expected.
I've told my mother that the food you make is lousy. Learn from my mother, a senior housewife, and cook properly from now on.
Unbeknownst to me, my husband had been complaining to my mother-in-law. Since her husband passed away a few years ago, she has been living alone in a house some distance away from us. My husband was worried about her, so he went to check on her from time to time, and he told her how stressed out he was about me. After that, my mother-in-law visited our house often and started blaming me. Both my husband and my mother-in-law treat me coldly, and I always felt helpless. When I talked to them about money, they insisted that I should take care of it myself, so I spent my days visiting my mother, draining my savings from my unmarried days. I was willing to put up with it for my mother's sake, but my savings were running out faster than I expected. I don't have much money left. Please give an actual allowance.
I told you I don't want to. I mean, it's a waste of money to visit your mother. I hope she dies already.
My husband was insane. He says my food tastes bad, and he doesn't care about my mother. I couldn't see any vision of being happy with my husband like this, and I murmured in my heart that I might not be able to fulfill the vow I made to my mother. A few days later, on a cold night, I received a call. It was from the hospital, where my mother was hospitalized, and I suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. I was afraid that something might have happened to my mother. I fearfully pressed the receiver button on my cell phone.
Your mother has been rushed to the emergency room and is in critical condition.
I heard the doctor's voice. Okay, I'm on my way. With that, I hung up the phone and immediately called my husband.
Hello? I'm in the middle of something.
My husband was in the middle of something and tried to hang up on me right away. Wait, can you calm down and listen to me? I just got a call from the hospital that mom's life is in danger, so you need to come to the hospital right away. I'm on my way too. However, my husband doesn't change his tone and says to me,
Why do I have to go? It's your mother's business, so why don't you go alone? I'm just enjoying a night of fishing. Don't bother me.
He shouted at me and hung up the phone. I was stunned by my husband's attitude, as if he was a stranger to me. How could he be so heartless when the life of someone he cared about was in danger? It was my husband who should be on his way to the hospital rather than me. I felt an uncontrollable anger welling up inside me. I want to run to my husband right now and slap him. But right now, there was no time to lose. I gave up hope that my husband would come and headed for the hospital as quickly as possible. The next day, I came home and had lunch alone. Then, I received a call on my cell phone. I rushed to answer it, expecting my husband to finally call me back, but it was my friend Jenny. She was a colleague of mine from when I was working as an office worker, and we saw each other regularly after I got married. Hello, Jenny? What's wrong? Hi, Sophia. I saw something last night. So what? Please listen to me calmly. The truth is, I listened carefully to Jenny's story and found it unimaginable. Finally, in the evening, I received a call from my husband.
Listen to this. I got a big mackerel last night. It was worth sticking around in the frigid cold. We are having a mackerel dinner tonight, so ask my mom how to cook it. I want you to ruin this perfect fish.
My husband was completely satisfied with his night fishing, but I didn't care about his excitement. Mom passed away. I confided in him. My husband started laughing in high spirits.
I see your mother has finally passed away. How much inheritance are you getting?
My husband was still under the mistaken impression that my mother had passed away. I spoke the truth clearly and indignantly. Not my mother. Your mother passed away while you were indulging in a night of fishing. Yes, the mother who was rushed to the emergency room was not my mother, but my husband's mother, my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law was at the sauna near her house and had a myocardial infarction while she was there, probably due to the extreme rise and fall of her blood pressure caused by the difference in temperature between the outside and inside. My mother-in-law was rushed to the emergency room, but her body was already stiff and she passed away. I tried to call my husband many times, but my husband kept blocking my calls, and I never heard from him again that day. This was the first time he learned of his mother's death.
When I get home, you'll have to explain everything,
he said and hung up the phone. At this moment, I realized how much my husband had been looking forward to my mother's death, and I despaired of his true nature. Why did I marry such a man? I was at a loss, but I decided to have a proper talk with him and waited for his return. About 30 minutes after the phone call, he came home in a hurry. He started questioning right when setting foot inside the house.
Hey, what do you mean my mom's gone? Why didn't you call me?
He's pissed off that it's my fault, but I don't understand what he's saying. Huh? I called you several times last night, and yet, who is the one who has been blocking my calls all this time? I said somewhat agitatedly, but my husband said,
You're the one who talked about her in a confusing way. If I had heard it was my mom, I would have stopped fishing and go to the hospital right away. Even if it was an accident, you might as well have killed her. It should have been your mom who died,
he said to me. I can't get anywhere talking to you. You're crazy to think you can say such a thing. I don't care if you regret it in the future.
Who is going to regret it? Your mother will be going to the other side in the near future. When that happens, give me all of your inheritance as compensation for this.
I finally told him to leave me alone and locked myself in my room. 3 days later, my mother-in-law's funeral was held. In addition to my husband and myself, my husband's relatives and co-workers came to pay their respects.
I heard that it was so sudden that you couldn't see her at her end. I was so sorry to hear that. Yes, it was a huge shock to me.
My husband would make a sad face when the mourners sympathized with him, but he scowled towards me. Then my husband began the eulogy, but I wanted to cover my ears.
I was stuck at work that night my mother died. I got a call from my wife, and I managed to get a break from work and try to answer it. But she stopped calling after about 2-3 attempts. If only she had kept in touch with me until I picked up the phone.
My husband was giving a sobbing speech about how it was my fault when he was obviously lying, and me being annoyed inside, saying, "What the hell is he talking about?" The mourners who didn't know the truth started giving me the cold shoulder, and I heard one of the relatives say, "That girl is not a good wife to make her husband so sad like this." I was unreasonably blamed. I was at the height of my anger. My husband was still in the middle of his speech, but I grabbed the microphone from him. "I'm sorry to interrupt. I have something I have to tell you all."
Sophia, what are you doing? Are you going to ruin my mother's funeral?
"I'm going to tell the truth, and you're going to shut up and listen."
What? The truth?
I shook off my husband's protest and played the voice recorder I was holding. I had secretly recorded my conversation with my husband when he returned from fishing. I had recorded my repeated attempts to contact him, his refusal to accept my phone calls, and his desire for my mother's inheritance. Everyone stared in shock as my husband's true nature came to light. When exposed to the conclusive evidence, my husband did not know what to do. I thought there was no way to get away with this, but he stubbornly resisted.
If you thought you couldn't get through, why didn't you call my office? There is no way I could use my cell phone while I was at work.
There was no evidence on the voice recorder that my husband had gone fishing at night. But I still had one important fact. You were never working in the first place. Take a look at this video. I took out my phone and showed him a video. It was a video of him enjoying a fishing date with a young woman at an offshore fishing pond.
Recording without permission? Who did this?
My husband suspected me at first, but I told him I was home all that night, so it wasn't me. Then, one of the mourners stands up and says, "It was me." That mourner was Jenny. She had called me earlier to tell me that she had seen something, and it was the scene of my husband's affair. At first, I doubted my eyes, but no matter how many times I looked, all I could see was Emery on a date with a young woman. So I couldn't help but take a video of it and send it to Sophia. When Jenny sent me this video, I was shocked. While his mother was in the emergency room, her son was cheating on his wife without a care in the world. I can't help but feel sorry for his mother, that she won't get to see him before dying because of it. When the evidence of the affair was revealed, my husband finally lost his words and collapsed to his knees. He cried out to me,
"Please forgive me."
Then I replied, "I don't want to be with a scumbag who mistreated my mother and his own mother's life." I said firmly. The funeral was messy, but somehow it ended. I demanded a divorce from my husband, and he complied without a single complaint. My ex-husband had no savings at all, not only because he spent a lot of money on fishing equipment, but also because he had an affair with a woman. He barely had enough money from his mother's inheritance to pay me alimony, and it was a shameful sight to see an old man trying to rely on his parents' money. In addition, since people from my ex-husband's company attended the funeral, he had gained a bad reputation within the company and was completely isolated. Although he had always been an elite man who could do a good job, his career path was cut off due to his numerous misdeeds, and he was finally forced to resign from his job. When I went to visit my mother, I told her about the divorce. I couldn't be happy with that man. "I'm so sorry I couldn't fulfill my promise." I apologized to my mother with tears in my eyes. She took my hand in hers and said, "You have nothing to apologize for. I don't want you to be happy with someone who can't take care of you. I hope you will meet a man you can truly love. I will be watching over you from heaven to make sure you both are happy." I really love my mother, who always has a smile on her face, even when she doesn't have much time left to live. From marriage to divorce, many things happen, but I realized the preciousness of life once again. I decided to become a nurse so that I can save people's lives.
As I walked out the entrance, my husband grabbed my shoulder, and we quickly became entangled in a scuffle. I absolutely did not want to be hit, but if possible, I wanted to land a punch myself. However, the strength of a man is incredible, and my husband was seriously trying to overpower me. I was also desperate to resist, but at that moment, we heard a loud scream from across the street. My husband and I froze in place. The woman who screamed was looking at us with a terrifying expression. Or rather, she was looking down. A pervert! My name is Sabrina, and I am 36 years old. I've changed jobs several times in the past, and I'm currently working for a foreign company. I have no complaints about my job, and I'm very grateful to have been hired. However, balancing work and my personal life is quite difficult. I now realize that it depends on the person I'm with. If my husband weren't Tim, my life would have been very different. To be honest, I've never had any trouble with growing up. I was headhunting to work for the company I'm currently working for, and I'm very satisfied with both my salary and benefits. My biggest flaw is that I have no eye for men. Well, there are countless flaws that I have, such as being bad at housework or not being good with children. But the one that stands out the most is my bad luck with men. Despite having learned painful lessons numerous times in the past, I was once again deceived this time. Before meeting my husband Tim, I had been plagued by various troubles. While living together with an ex-boyfriend, he used my car without permission during my overseas business trip and even went on a cheating trip with another woman. However, that is not the main issue. What was more problematic than anything else was the fact that my ex-boyfriend had had his driver's license revoked in the past after causing a severe injury to an elderly person on a pedestrian crossing. Although we were living together, my ex and I were complete strangers, and there was no contact from the police. As a result, he kept the fact that he caused a major accident from me. However, I eventually found out from the police because he had a self-inflicted car accident on the way back from cheating trip using my car. According to the police, he had been trying to move the car somewhat, but had crashed into the telephone pole while under the influence of alcohol. Passers-by reported the incident, and when the police arrived, it was immediately evident that he was driving under the influence of alcohol without even needing a test. When the officer asked for his license, he couldn't show it. The police checked the data and discovered that he was driving without a license. Of course, he was arrested on the spot. I received a call from the police and immediately returned home from my business trip. I also received intense questioning. If it was found that I had left the car to him, knowing that he was driving without a license, it would have been a huge problem. Fortunately, my ex-boyfriend told the truth, so I was not held accountable, but I still received a warning from the police. His parents deposited the money for the damage to the car and the inconvenience fee, but to be honest, that didn't matter to me. This incident became a significant trauma for me, and I decided not to have a boyfriend until I met my husband at my previous job. My feelings of love began to stir again about 5 years after the incident. My first impression of my husband was good. I thought he was a soft-spoken person with a well-groomed appearance. His way of speaking and behavior were all very smart. I was surprised that he brought his lunch every day, but I had an even better impression of him because he was also capable of handling household chores. The reason I became closer to my husband was that we started working on the same project. Please date me with marriage in mind. My husband told me that after he asked me out for dinner a few times. My heart danced, but at the same time, I honestly revealed my inner feelings to my husband, the trauma from that time. Then my husband took out his driver's license from his wallet and said, "I have a valid driver's license. See? I don't cheat. I'm not usually the type to say that sort of thing. But if it makes you feel comfortable, I'll say it as much as you want." His straightforward words struck my heart. Maybe I could have a peaceful life with this person. However, I still have a problem. Thank you, but if we date and the conversation leads to marriage, do you want me to be a housewife? What do you mean? I want to continue working even after getting married. Also, I'm not good at housework. So currently, I hire a cleaning service 3 times a week. If you want someone to take care of your home, I don't think I'm the right person. My husband listened to my story and chuckled. Everyone has something they're not good at, right? I think we can make up for each other's weaknesses if we work together. Thinking it was a very smart answer, I accepted my husband's words without a doubt, and we got married after 6 months of dating. However, it seems that I still didn't have a knack for choosing men. My husband changed completely after we got married. You came home late again, huh? Every Monday, my husband says this to me. You're saying that again? How many times do I have to explain it to you? I respond to my husband with a sigh. I work for a company based in Southeast Asia, so my days off are different from my husband's, who works for a regular company. We used to work at the same workplace, so our days off were almost the same. But now, because of the time difference, my days off are scattered. How's work going? It's okay, I guess. Actually, my work is going quite well, but my life is not going as smoothly. My husband and I both changed jobs shortly after getting married, but he's been having a hard time lately. I started doing housework that I'm not good at, trying to support him. I thought it would help him focus on work, but now he's even nitpicking my cooking. Meatloaf again? It's the only dish I'm proud of making well. Well, you were good at your job, but shame. His words made me angry, but I held back and waited for his work to pick up. However, he quit his company without telling me after only 2 months. Now, he's working part-time at a cafe, earning around $1,000 a month for working only a few hours a day, 3 days a week. Until now, we've split the household expenses in half. But with this current income, splitting them equally is no longer possible. We can manage for a while with our savings, considering our past incomes. There are already dark clouds looming over our relationship. It happened one day when I returned home from a 2-night business trip and my husband was in a very bad mood. If this kind of thing continues, I'm getting a divorce. Huh? Suddenly, my husband's declaration of divorce left me bewildered and speechless. You went on a business trip and didn't even make my meal before you left? What are you talking about? Because making the husband's meal is the wife's job, isn't it? It seems like I brought another hopeless person into my territory. I don't understand at all. Well then, let's get a divorce. Half amused, I looked at my husband's face and calmly thought, if you were the one proposing a divorce, then that's even convenient. Alright, let's get a divorce. What? Are you sure about that? Yeah, it's fine. Your words and actions are completely different from before we got married. Are you really okay with a divorce? Yeah, I'm good. I'll start packing my things. Wait a minute. Hey, what is it now? You're being persistent. That's how you're going to leave me, don't you? Is this guy crazy or something? It was him who wanted the divorce. I was confused, but I still gathered the bare minimum of my belongings and tried to leave the house. Then my husband chased me with incredible force. You have a man, don't you? That's what it is, isn't it? Wait, what? No, there is no man, okay? Then where are you going? You must have another man you can switch to at any time. I told you there isn't anyone.
Don't you dare lie to me.
Even if I said there is or isn't, you'll just keep doubting me, won't you? I'm tired of dealing with you. I can't believe I ended up marrying such a petty man. Am I really a magnet for terrible men? Or is there some pheromone I'm emitting that attracts them? While lost in thought, my husband continued to press me.
You're making fun of me, aren't you? Don't get carried away.
Huh? I'm not getting carried away or anything.
Then why is that only you were able to switch jobs smoothly?
Well, I guess it was just luck. I worked hard at my job too.
I was headhunted by that company, you know.
This was a lie. My husband was not headhunted by his previous company. He had been saying that even before he joined the company. But I know the truth because I was the one who was headhunted. I kept quiet about this fact to avoid hurting my husband's pride. But even now, my husband is still trying to show off to me without realizing my consideration. Now, it doesn't matter how much I think about my husband's worthlessness. What matters is that I need to deal with this annoying situation in front of me. When I let out a big sigh toward my husband, he threw a straight punch at me. But the next moment, he groaned and squatted on the floor as he had hit his finger joint hard with the metal fittings on my back that I used to block his punch. Oh dear, that must have hurt. Besides, you were trying to use violence just now, weren't you? This could be a sufficient reason for divorce, don't you think?
Shut up. Who do you think you are? Telling me what to do? Women were born to support men, you know.
That's such an outdated way of thinking. Haven't you forgotten that you were born from a woman too?
Shut up. You are so damn cheeky.
Then why did you even marry me in the first place? You knew I wasn't cut out for domestic life, didn't you? In fact, I told you that clearly, didn't I?
It's a man's privilege to re-educate such women.
You really don't get it, do you? I really don't have a knack for choosing men. Well then, let's discuss divorce through our lawyers at a later date.
Wait a minute. Don't mess around.
I ignored my husband and took my luggage outside to the front door. He followed me and grabbed my shoulder. We quickly got into a scuffle. I didn't want to be punched, but I wanted to land a hit myself. However, his strength was overwhelming. My husband was determined to pin me down, and I was desperately struggling. Then I heard a woman's loud scream. My husband and I both froze. The woman who screamed was staring at us with a terrifying expression. Or rather, she was looking down. Up! Pervert! I also noticed that my husband's sweatpants had slid down to his knees. He blushed and immediately let go of me, pulling up his pants. You weren't wearing underwear again? Come on. You probably thought it was okay since you were at home. But I hate that kind of depravity in you. My husband, who was seeing with his lower half exposed by a neighbor, hurriedly ran back inside the house. As expected, he fiercely resisted my desire for divorce afterward. But I had already completed the divorce application myself. Anticipating such a situation, I had received the photo data of my husband's embarrassing appearance from the neighbor who witnessed it. Even after the divorce, my ex-husband persistently followed me around, but I used the photo data as leverage to make him agree to the divorce. Still, he ambushed me in front of my company or house and tried to talk to me. He said things like, "It's difficult for a woman to live alone," or that being single is worrying. Completely unnecessary concerns. In the end, this guy was still looking down on women even after the divorce. I absolutely didn't want to spend my life with such a person. It was impossible. Even if I were to feel lonely when I get old, there are plenty of other ways to live.
Hey, where are you now?
This was the last call from my ex-husband. I don't think I have an obligation to tell you, do I?
Are you on a business trip? Well, then I can't see you today. Even if I wait at your company's building, huh? Honey, I was thinking about what I can do to start over with you. It was all my fault.
Your meatloaf was delicious. You always wanted to be praised, didn't you?
I'm sorry I didn't notice. From now on, I'll praise and encourage you. So, come back to me.
This guy is seriously crazy. I felt my spine freezing and hung up the phone without saying a word. In fact, I would never meet him again. As I flown to Southeast Asia for work at the head office, I intend to settle here permanently. My parents died early, and I am an only child, so I don't have any attachment to a particular place. Well, I think I probably won't get married again. For the time being, I'll focus on my work and hobbies. I hope there is a wonderful future waiting ahead of me.